Hey, it's Samantha with the Rediscover Real podcast. I am so thrilled to be here with you. Are you feeling overwhelmed, confused, or stuck on a hamster wheel from constantly seeking external tools, validation, and buffering in a search for more joy and fulfillment? Rediscover Real means to pull back the curtain and return to the foundation, peeling away the layers of mindsets, identities, and beliefs that no longer serve us. As we choose to grow, move forward, and show up fully as God intended, because at our very core, inside of you, lies everything already, as God created you absolutely perfect. We get to uncover and rediscover what's inside of us, and then to expand into what we're capable of. In this space, we'll dive into topics on personal finance and budgeting, mindset and growth, relationships, network marketing, and entrepreneurship. I'm sure there'll be some laughter and possibly a few tears along the way. I'm on this journey and you're invited. I'm holding out my hand for you. Will you join me? Let's rediscover real together. Today on the podcast, I am very excited because I get to interview one of my childhood friends that we have known each other since we were like 5 and 7 or something like that. Yeah. And she's just this incredible lady and an incredible mom. And it's been, I'm probably going to gush a lot because I think you're awesome. And I'm so honored to have her on the podcast. And we're going to talk about lots of fun things probably because we have really, really good conversations. And we often are like, we should have recorded this. So we'll see how far we go with this. But today, she's going to share some of her story from a business perspective and also with network marketing. And I'm really excited to share all of that with you. So this is my beautiful friend, Cheri Harbidge, and she is a wife to a fantastic guy, which if, yes. Growing up, I was like, I didn't know him. And it was that like, who is this? What are we getting into here? Like, does the friend approve? And it happened very quickly.
It was fast.
Yeah. So it was kind of that like after the fact, you're like, oh no. And then you're like, oh, this is so good. This is such a God thing.
Yes.
And she's also an incredible, incredible mom to 5 kids. And she's got a really cool Instagram account. You can go follow her, and that's at Prairie Sage Family.
Yeah. Yes, Prairie Sage Family. Yeah.
Prairie Sage Family. So I'll tag it in the show notes as well. But she's got a really cool account. So I'm really excited to have you here today.
I'm so honored to be here. So excited to share.
Yeah. So you can start from the beginning, wherever you want in your journey to where you are now and what you've built. And
yeah. So my business journey really started when I was at home with my mom being an entrepreneur and her encouraging my dad to have his own business and everything. And I just really had that sense that having your own business was the way to go. It gave you that freedom and stuff, but I didn't really know anything beyond, raising dogs or something like that you could do at home, because I was planning on being a mom. So I needed something that could supplement and work at home. So that's about as far as I could think. And then I married Wes, and that's when I guess my vision for what I was trying to create kind of got more clear. And my husband was trying to find work that would also give us freedom that we were looking for our family. And initially, his mom was actually the one that was brought the first network marketing opportunity to Wes. And that one kind of started opening our eyes to what was out there, but I didn't understand the industry at all. I didn't realize that was one company of many. All I knew was that it was a very confusing opportunity, and it's long gone now, which is kind of my first experience of how often these kind of companies have come and go, and they're not all the same. Mm-hmm. So, but it did give us an introduction. We read different books from there. That's the first time that I ever understood the concept of investing into a network. There's a book called something like Dig Your Well Before You Need It or something. And it's just a book talking about how important it is to invest into people and a network, whether it's so that you can help others or so that if you're in a time of need, other people can help you. So it started opening our world up. And then a dear friend of mine started posting about a different product and company, but I did not have the connections yet. I didn't realize it was network marketing. All I knew is she was sharing about it. And I could tell that there was lots of people involved because she would share a lot of stories. And she happened to be sharing stories that related to our health struggle at that time. And so the dots connected for me, and I was like, we need to try the product. Well, at the same time, this friend of mine, she was a stay-at-home mom as well, and I knew how much she was wanting to create an income where her husband could be at home or to not have to be gone so much. And I knew how much she never complained or anything. So when I saw her building this business and I saw her doing well, and I also watched her for about 6 months, and I saw her, I just remember thinking, she's smart, she's business smart. And I didn't know that about her at the time. So I finally called her and I was like, tell me about the products, but I want to know about the business too. So she told me about it. And that's really the beginning. And because we trusted her and her husband so much, it just filled us with, both Wes and I, with complete belief that this was very good. And if they could do it, then we could do it as well. That's how we felt about it. So that's kind of the beginning of my network marketing.
So how long ago was that now?
I think that would be 10 or 11 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it was right at the beginning, like we'd been married for like a year and a little bit. So in 12 years, it's gone up.
There you go.
Yeah. So that's how it all started.
Very cool.
But I had a lot to learn.
Yeah.
A lot to learn. Like I said, I didn't know a thing about network marketing. And so I came into it very naive and just thinking of it from a very basic business perspective, because I understood basic business. And so it just made sense to me. It was very familiar to me in that way. But then I started hearing what other people thought about network marketing and the industry. And I was like, whoa, I don't want to be messed around with stuff like that. And so I had to really process through what the industry was about and build my own values around it and what I was going to create and build my own sense of purpose and mission with it. And there was a lot that had to be developed.
Yeah. And the industry itself has shifted so much over the course of 10 years. Like there's been so many shifts, right? So it's
the standards of what it should be.
Yeah.
Because it's a fairly new industry, really. So it's very much developing.
It's new, but it's old, right? I always think it's funny because it's like, well, this is what we've done
for a long time
with everything in our lives forever. But to actually like put it in like a structured model, and monetize it, that's fairly new. So
more so, like 100 years or something. Like super new. But what it was 100 years ago is basically nothing like it is now. Pretty much across the board. Pretty much, although there's still companies kind of old school yet.
So from you started the business, and you can share as much or as little as you want, but I would love to hear like what has been that success journey for you. Where are you now? What does that allow you guys to do? Because we often hear, like the industry, you hear things that are like, well, you hear like big numbers or crazy things that people are doing, but then you also hear that some of it's fake or it doesn't, and
it's very real. That fakeness is very real because you can twist the system to make it work for you and make it look like you are doing things, but really behind the scenes you're floundering and
you're not actually making $1 million.
And of course there's always ups and downs in every business, so that's to be expected, but there's definitely ways that people can look like they're shooting up and really that's they did shoot up,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't very stable. And that's not something I ever wanted to build.
Yeah.
I wanted long-term.
Yeah.
Which in the company that I'm with, that was something that they were trying to create. So it made it easier for me to build that because the company was aiming for legacy. Our team was, and then it just mission and everything lined up. So that makes it a lot easier too.
Totally. Being aligned with your character and like the like basic morals, but also just like the character traits and the things you want. I mean, it's with any business, right? Like if it's something that if you don't agree with or don't believe in, and depending on how that is from a corporate, I mean, when I used to be in corporate, right, that was a huge thing. It's like, well, I don't even agree with like, and I definitely don't like, the leadership is sketchy, right? And so that would make you question a lot of things, right? Like, where are we going?
And there's a healthy kind of pride that you need to have in your work.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to develop that in this as well, because it's a business just like any other business. And so working through that stuff, the values and what you stand for is extremely important.
Yeah. And those shifts, I mean, I had talked about what network marketing is in one of the first podcasts that I recorded on here. So if you're like, okay, they're talking about a pyramid scheme, you can go back to that episode and I think it's titled like, what is network marketing and what does that look like? Because I kind of break a lot of those things down and what that looks like. So for you so this is the piece that I'd love to hear, again, as much or as little as you'd like to share, for what you've built and what you've created now. What does that look like? Like, what does it allow you guys to do as a family? Mm-hmm. The freedom, the flexibility, is it something where, the kids have, you don't have to worry about paying for fun activities for the kids and
our life is very different.
School stuff. So I remember when you guys first got married, before you had started, when you were on the working ranches and stuff. Yeah. And I just remember the seasons of struggle, right? Mm-hmm. And like, I remember, just like that.
Again, I was very naive because in my world, I never thought that we would ever make more than that. So in my head, it was just how life was. I'd grown up that way. So I just never thought above that. Mm-hmm. But weighing lettuce heads and stuff like that was just,
I think that's one of the moments that sticks in my head, right? Is like, I mean, knowing you guys have this, like the lifestyle that you want to create of being on the working ranches and that lifestyle and raising kids in that, and like that work ethic and those things. It's not that you were looking for like magical unicorn dust, but also like that struggle, like you said, it was just normal, like to weigh your heads of lettuce at the grocery store. Like,
it's a little funny to think that I did that.
Well, but those are the things. I mean, as somebody who loves talking about budgeting and money mindset and those pieces, and for a long time sitting in I sat in a lot of scarcity and all of those things, that totally that's like that. I know a lot of like even accounts and stuff that I still follow that I'm like, that sounds like a great budgeting tip. Like that's what you do when you go grocery shopping. Like that's what people talk about, right? Yeah. And that's where I'd love to shift that into how can we see abundance and look for opportunities, and options. So what does that look like now for you guys? Like, because oftentimes you hear network marketing, and if you're like, oh yeah, okay, like I know what that is. And, maybe it's, some of the companies out there that, you've been in, we all have this stuff in our cupboards and our kitchens or whatever that looks like. Right. And you're like, oh yeah, they do that on the weekends, or, you buy it once and you're good for the next 45 years because it's well-made stuff and you don't need to replace it ever. Yeah. You've got containers for life. And, but it gives them a little bit of extra cash or something or like that. Yeah. Fun money, or helps pay for school supplies or whatever that is. Right. But what does that look like for you? Like, so, because you have a lot of kids and that takes a lot of time. And
it's very true. So for the last 6 years, we have been 6-figure or above earners, which when you go from a couple grand a month to that, it's very drastic. And that in itself took a long time to mentally understand what that even meant. But it completely changed our lives because of my husband's health journey, healing there's the body, but there's also the emotions and identity and so many layers to it. Some of the things that income provided was space for my husband to heal. That was one of the things he needed to stop working for a time. It also provided coaching and being able to invest into that. We always wanted to have a strong marriage, so part of that was to have coaches as well. That training and investing into ourselves hasn't been a small penny. We've definitely invested a lot, but we were able to. So that's some things I was thinking about just recently. My husband loves working with horses and cattle in the agricultural world. That's something we're going to move into more and more just because it's a passion of ours. But everyone knows that you don't do that to create an income. You do it because, not that you don't create an income, but that's not why you do it. It's not a lucrative business. So to be able to move into that world, but not have the stress of having to provide for your family at the same time.
Having to be lucrative
It really makes it really fun is how I feel. I love seeing Wes able to move into those realms and read lots of books and just like have our own home university basically and go practice the things. And he really has a unique situation in our community because of the freedom he has in our business, that he can work for people, but they don't own him and his time. So it created a great situation for him.
Yeah.
And then never mind that, being able to do stuff with the kids. We've done lots of traveling. Our families live far away, so being able to go see them, giving missions work, like local in our local country. So lots of things.
So huge. I mean, just like the fact that, I mean, a 6-figure income, like period, full stop right there. But, and then I think with that too, like to really, cause sometimes that feels like not necessarily like, what even does that mean?
It's
right? Like, what does that
comprehend?
Grasp. And so the fact that Wes gets to be home with you on a day-to-day basis, like this is now your guys' business together. Like, you know, he does other things and, you know, and gets paid for them, but he doesn't have it's not a full-time job. It's for fun.
It's
because he enjoys it. And I mean, again, on the outside, it's so cool to see him at home, to see you guys, first of all, as a couple and your partnership and like getting to work together, not just like passing each other / like raising kids or dropping, you know, coordinating schedules to drop kids off at the right places at the right times. But also for him to be home with the kids, like, and to see your kids and how much, I mean, I grew up really close to my dad and I mean, obviously, you know, love him to bits. And he got to be at home quite a bit on the farm because that's where I grew up. But there was a lot of stress for me financially in that. Like I grew up feeling that stress of them trying to make the farm profitable. And when it wasn't, then he was gone working and gone. And that was, I mean, those are definitely memories that I hold, that like of dad having to be gone and not being around and having to carry the weight of everything else. Right. And that not being easy. And so to see your kids grow up and more as as they get older and all of that. And as the years go by and as he's, you know, Wes is healthy now and gets to really step into all of those areas.
It's been fun seeing him be able to step into, because he wasn't an entrepreneur at all. He was raised to be an employee. So the mindset shift he had to step into was very huge, but he wanted to step into it because his world had opened up and he realized what it could provide. And so, but it was still a huge growth. Lots of growth, but we were very excited too. And right now we've had so much growth, but we also, in our mind's eye, we have so much more that we want to grow. Like our goals, we definitely not reached. Like, you know how you want to keep on growing. So not just like income wise, but that as well, but impact wise and the excellence of where we're going.
Well, and we were talking about this the other day, like 3 of your kids in the next 5 years are going to have licenses. Like, there's a lot of vehicles coming up in their future.
And whatever, like we do homeschooling, but I like to be able to provide real life hands-on or tutoring or whatever. Like books are great and I like books, but I also like real life. So
Well, yeah. And to give the kids the opportunities, right? Like the point, you're not trying to just like keep them at home in this little bubble, right? With how you homeschool, which is, I love it. And so getting to give the kids, having the ability to give the kids the opportunities, right? And like the resources, the finances behind that is huge. And the time, right? Like you're not the only one running around with all the kids, right? And that's the thing. And so, and the way your partnership and how you and Wes work together between the business, because it is a business and it does take time and intentional effort to show up for.
Totally. It's a business.
It's a business. It's not magically unicorn.
But at the same time, what is really cool is there's times that we don't show up. Like we might have a layer of showing up, but not showing up in like a momentum creating type of way. That paycheck still comes in. Like that's crazy.
The residual income behind it. And that comes back to what I talked about in the first podcast about when I was explaining network marketing, of when you're choosing a company, looking for residual income.
There's a lot of things you want to be.
There's a lot. I feel like I need to do another podcast on that.
When it comes to dating too, I would say a lot of families, when they have young children, they kind of feel like the best dates they can have is grocery shopping or doing anything together.
We put the kids to bed early.
Which for me, we have so much time together, whether it's planning for our futures, making goals and plans, talking and reflecting, that we actually, our dates, that's like our everyday is what most people's dates are. So our dates are actually more focused on just doing fun things together because we're together a lot.
I love that.
But we wanted to be together. And I didn't necessarily want to bring Wes home. I just wanted to have it so that we could be with Wes. That's how I like to describe it. I'm a homebody, but not really fully. Like I like my home. I do enjoy being at home, but I'm an adventurous.
You guys are social, man. I come down here to visit. If you're listening on the podcast, I'm actually recording this with Cheri in her office, which is super fun. But gosh, they're like on the go. I'm like, I go home.
Lately.
I'm exhausted, man. I need sleep.
Winter's coming.
But the seasons of that, which is great. But not having to choose. I think that's the thing. Like even this summer, the adventures, the camping trips you guys have got to do, that flexibility of like, it's a hot day. Let's go down to the river and go floating.
Very much.
And, we did our things, or we did our stuff in the morning, or whatever that looks like. Or randomly let's go let's go camping, or whatever that looks like. Or
so there's the freedom of that, which is incredible. But we had to even grow into that freedom, because having that much freedom of choice where you can really decide whatever took time to learn actually how to manage your time, how to be intentional with it. Because for so long we were told what to do for so much of our time. And it's a challenge, but it was a challenge that we wanted, and very thankful to have that challenge.
The stewardship piece is such a big thing, right? With any of it. And that's, with network marketing, oftentimes the barrier to entry to join, to start your business, right, is very, very low, right? Like it's not like starting a traditional, whether it's a brick and mortar business or whatever else that is, where it can take hundreds of thousands of dollars, or at least tens of thousands of dollars to start. And this whole and a lot of time, to have kind of that like business in a box, the barrier to entry is really low. And so then learning how to steward that opportunity well, because you see a lot of people, like that's the whole thing, is so many people jump in, they're like, ooh, this looks like really cool and exciting, and would give the freedom and flexibility and options and resources, and like who wouldn't want this? But then you have to actually steward it well, and it takes that intention.
It takes growth.
It takes a lot of growth. And I think that's where a lot of people have to like work through that. And if you've watched people, maybe join a company and then kind of leave, or that, they're not doing it actively anymore, or whatever that is, it's that growth and also that stewardship, learning how to, it is totally different. Ownership, because so much of our lives, working in corporate or going to school or going to college or wherever, whatever season of life you're in, you're reporting to someone else pretty much. Like,
yeah,
you don't
they
have,
set the schedule.
yeah, like
You show up
and that's it. And so there's not a lot of ownership there besides like, well, I guess I should make a lunch. And a lot of people don't even do that to go to work.
Yeah.
Right. And so that ownership piece is so huge.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it's freedom, but freedom always has responsibility.
Yeah.
So if you want that freedom, then you need to be willing to take that responsibility of growth.
Mm-hmm. It's 110% worth it.
Totally.
And I mean, watching from the outside growing up, I was thinking back to like when we were growing up, right? And the conversations we would have, and we'd go have like, we'd get together on Sundays with their family, and I'd ask you like, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I wanted to be a veterinarian. And you're like, well, I want to be a mom.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, well, that's great. But like, what else? Like what happens if like your husband gets hurt? Like, don't you want something to fall back on? And I never in a million years like dreamt that we would get to work together.
I know.
Which is such a blessing and so cool. And I should do a different episode on getting to work together and getting to work with friends, because traditionally in other businesses, or when you look at going into like, oh, we're going into business together, we've all probably seen how that goes really not good.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a really cool thing.
Well, it's a big fear a lot of people have in the industry, is they feel like they don't want to settle their friends, all these objections, feeling like they're going to destroy their relationships. Huge fear. Huge. So
we'll talk about that in a separate episode. So I think it's good enough to be totally separate.
It's a whole box.
We'll leave that box. But then you get a little teaser. So going forward, and again, you can share as much as or little as you want. But you know that. So what do you see on the horizon? And you shared a little bit, but what gets you? I mean, you've been around for a long time now in the industry, in the company, and with the company. Like, you're still with the same company you've been with since the beginning. And the solidness is there. And so what does that look like for you? What do you see? What do you see for your family, or what do you see on the horizon, whether it's goals or dreams or?
Oh, there's lots of, I have lots of goals. So agriculture is something we're passionate about, like I mentioned. So, and because the company that we're with is very much health oriented. And both Wes and I have walked significant health journeys, either with each other, like my husband was sick, or our parents or whatever. And so I totally see us walking the path of having impact on the agricultural world when it comes to changing the way it's done, so that it's more, the food is more nutritious and things like that, just because it really does impact people a lot. And just knowing how to grow food and everything with just a different holistic perspective to it. So that's one avenue. Another avenue is both Wes and I really want to host. And yes, we can host wherever. There's no, just like you can give whenever. But what I dream of being able to give is like cabins and mountain views and horseback trips, and families coming and getting to experience going out into the mountains or whatever, and taking people for experiences like that. So campfires and stuff like that.
So cool.
So the hosting on those levels is something we really want to do. And then I guess our closest focus right now is our kids. Right now, they're growing up super fast. And so, like Samantha's saying, 5 years, 3 of them are driving. Like, we don't have actually that much more time.
Auntie Sam is feeling very old.
Yeah. So I feel very aware of the passing of time with that. And so I do have those dreams and stuff, and we're heading towards them, because I feel like it's healthy for a family to serve outside of themselves. But at the same time, our focus is pretty absorbed right now with that. And then in the network marketing world, I really am passionate about changing how people see it and understand it, and helping create training and help people learn how to do it in a way that they can be proud of, that we can be proud to represent, and that will, those fears that people have, or those bad experiences that they've had, to really change those, which I personally know now what it looks like to grow a business in a healthy, strong, solid, legacy minded way, in a way that anyone could do it without feeling like they're crossing. Like, to me, relationships are everything in my world. So I wouldn't ever want to cross those things of like destroying relationships. That's like a no-no in my world. So to be able to provide a way for people to create this kind of life without feeling like they have to cross some sort of unhealthy boundary, but to be like, no, we can do this in the most healthy, good ways. And really, the industry is amazing for families and people in all different walks of life, teaches them all sorts of things, gives them another stream of income. Like, it's an amazing industry, and I just really want it to be more well known, more well understood, and to be a model of that. And
to help others get to do what you've done. And I think that's the beauty of it, is like that being able to not just, well, that's cool, good for you, I'm so thrilled for you, it's so fun to watch your journey. I'll hopefully find something like that myself that I could do and be that successful in, right? And that's I think that's the piece is, in traditional businesses, unless you go into partnership with somebody like that, you have to go find your own thing. You can't offer that. You can't turn around and hold your hand back and go, I can,
not really.
I can offer the same thing. No, like, I mean, you might be able to give them some business advice, or you might go into partnership together if there's room and space for that. But very, very seldom does that happen. Right. And so with network marketing, with a company that's solid and built and set up the proper way.
That's not specific to network marketing. Like, all businesses are either solid and good or not. That's not
it's
like
so true.
So,
but in terms of like structure and how, because network, you can have different ways.
There's lots of
different ways.
and lots of different cookies out there.
And not all of them are cookies that you necessarily want to partake in, and they don't have that legacy mind, right? Or there's pieces that you're like, I don't want to play those reindeer games. Like
that's probably pretty much a whole podcast to know what to look for.
It really is. We should. Okay, maybe there's a third one coming for us. But so being able to, to hold your hand back, not only with being able to offer hope from that health perspective in, hey, this might be able to serve you and where you're at and help you, but also you could have this opportunity and this flexibility and this freedom as well. Right. And that's it's
so fun to be able to open up people's worlds and be like, this is what could be done if you want. If
you want to take the opportunity and steward it well. You're not holding them back. It's not like there's a cap or, boxes that, they're like stuck, making less than you, or it's only, you're like giving them a job because you have a business, right? You're not just hiring them.
It's not an employer
and so there's
world.
Exactly. And there's such a shift in that and so much beauty. I just love that.
You're an owner of a business. There's a partnership in it for sure, because you are building on a company, but it's your business. So
it's so cool. All right, do you have any last thoughts that you want to share?
Well, I guess you brought me on here to share my story and to help other women, moms, families, even dads and husbands and men, to know what's out there, and to, I guess, instead of it being a story that's distant and just kind of something you hear, to know that there's real life people that are able to do this, and this is something that you can do, and I would highly encourage you to do it. It will give you skills that you would paying thousands and thousands of dollars to learn in any other format of business.
And it doesn't have to be like it's a vehicle and it's a tool, right? Like you can, like you were talking about with your dreams and your passions.
It's not your main passion.
Yeah. It's not, you don't have to suddenly have this like wildly crazy passion for all
like
things
you don't lose your identity into the company, because that's something some people do. They become whatever the company is, and that's not the idea. The idea is that you keep your identity, you keep who you are, and that's actually the power. Is if you keep your own independent part. So and that's a common misconception.
That you have to like be that like crazy whatever, insert term, whatever you're used to, right? And it doesn't have to be that. And that's, I think, such a beautiful thing.
I love that part. I love helping people learn about what am I passionate about? What do I want to do? And to be able to bring what they have to the table, because you still have to bring that to the table. But it's such a perfect way to learn how to do business. Like it's an amazing school, business school.
It really is. It really is. Cool. Well, thank you so much for sharing today.
Thanks for having me on. This is super fun.
It is super fun. And so if there was one thing that people were, for somebody listening right now, that you said like to dig in, but what's one piece that they could take today, one thing in their lives, maybe they have nothing to do with network marketing. What's one area in their lives from a growth perspective or a business perspective? What's one thing, like I heard you talk a lot, like there's a lot of ownership and stewardship we talked about. What would be one area just from like a growth perspective, that they could take and, you know, maybe something that they kind of focus on, or, you know, ask themselves some questions around, whether, even if they don't like nothing to do with network marketing or starting their own business, but just in their life in growth, like how could they take on more ownership in their lives, or like what would be that thing?
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of things you could do, but for me, and anyone that is at all similar to me, and what I see a lot of people struggling with is they have stopped dreaming. And dreams and where you're heading, that vision for where you're going, is a big part of that ownership piece. And that's something that you can't create anything if you're not allowing yourself to see further than today. So if you can take some time to allow yourself to dream, that's something you were always good at. Like in our story, I wasn't the dreamer. I didn't see very far. And you saw very far.
And I had the family of dreamers, but sometimes without the ownership and implementation. So we just got stuck in these like fun dreams, but never got anywhere.
Plans. But you can't make a plan if you don't have a dream. Yes, if you have a dream, you need to make a plan. But so I would just want to challenge you to be vulnerable enough to dream, because that's really where it starts. If you don't have a dream, like I had some dream, and that definitely propelled me forward in even figuring out where I wanted to go. If anyone comes into my company, my first thing that I want to know is, why are you doing this? Because if you don't know why, then so dig into that.
You gotta dream. So good. Dreaming is, it really does give so much life. And people who stop dreaming, you see that
they perish, if you want to use the biblical terms.
And it's really true, and they do, and so bringing that back is such a huge piece. In so many ways. There's so many more things I want to ask you questions about that we could talk about, but we will leave it here for now. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you all again. Thank you so much.
You just finished another episode of the Rediscover Real podcast. My hope is always that you come away encouraged. And if you found this valuable, would you share it with a friend? And be sure to tag me on social media. I love seeing your takeaways. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. And I would so appreciate it if you took a second to rate and review this podcast so that more people can find it. Also, take a peek in the show notes for a link to my website that has a special gift just for you for listening today. As always, I'm on the journey and you're invited. Let's rediscover real together.